Hello, I'm Lonnie Wehunt, the Director of AV and Media here at Saxe-Agatha. I'm more often behind the camera, but I want to take a couple of minutes on this side of the camera to share with you the difference between concern and fear. The difference between being concerned and taking precautions and being paralyzed by fear. In 2012, I made the first of my 7 mission trips to Kisumu, Kenya. On our first morning there, we were on one of the main roads leaving Kisumu. Suddenly, up ahead, we saw thick black smoke. There was a huge pile of tires burning in the middle of the road. Crowds of angry people were blocking the road, and frankly, I was terrified. Our van driver promptly turned onto a side street and navigated through one of Kisumu's several slum areas to detour around the disturbance. The scenes of poverty and despair in the slums were even more unnerving than the demonstrations on the highway. This was my introduction to Kenya, and it was pretty jarring. I was fearful for my safety and the well-being of my fellow travelers. We were suddenly immersed in a landscape that was very different to us. Because we didn't understand the culture or speak the language, we were afraid. We weren't at home. We weren't in our cozy, comfortable environment. I see similarities from that situation to where we find ourselves today with COVID-19. It has disrupted our lives and our routines. Dry skin from all the hand washing and hand sanitizers. Uncomfortable masks are hot and fog up our glasses. Work and school have been interrupted. Our church activities and corporate worship have been altered by something we cannot see. And we all know someone, a friend or family member, who's been very sick or even died from this virus. Quite frankly, many of us have been afraid. What is your response when you're afraid? We've all seen the horror movie where someone is confronted by an unspeakable evil and they cower in a corner or shrink into a ball and resign themselves to their fate. In Kenya, I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and prayed the 23rd Psalm, specifically verse 4. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, there's danger all around me that can harm me and those I love. But I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. God is by my side. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, God is walking right beside me. I will fear no evil. What an awesome statement of fact. The creator of the universe, the God of all creation, holds me in his hands. How can I be afraid? Back in Kenya, we later found out that a taxi driver had been killed in an accident and his fellow drivers were protesting for safer working conditions, and no one had been harmed in the demonstrations. And during a later visit to the slums, we found that despite the awful living conditions, the people who lived there were kind and gracious, and many of them were eager to hear the word of God. In God I will praise his word. In God I have put my trust. I will not fear what flesh can do unto me. Friends, I'm certainly not saying to ignore the threat of COVID-19. I'm not saying to walk nonchalantly down a dark alley in the middle of the night. Be concerned. Be cautious. Protect yourselves and the ones you love. But don't let anyone or anything, even COVID-19, make you cower in fear. Remember, your God is always by your side.